Hello, my name is Greg Carey. I'm the Chief of Patrol for Castro Community on Patrol. We're going to take just a few minutes to go through a quick presentation that explains how Castro Patrol works, with the hope that it will invite you or friends of yours to join as volunteers to help make the Castro safer. Just as a quick point, we only ask for 1 3-hour shift per month, so it can be a very small commitment of your time to make a big difference as far as the neighborhood. Our purpose as a patrol group, we are a group of volunteers that are dedicated to improving the safety of people who live, work, visit, or play in the Castro. What we will cover in this presentation is how our approach reduces violence, how we respond to medical emergencies, how we support special events throughout the neighborhood, how we educate the public, how we use networking as far as connecting with other groups, and finally a really short history of how and why we started. First of all, let's talk about reducing violence. We use a team approach so that we never have to deal with complicated situations individually. We work in teams, which means that you will never be asked to patrol by yourself. Everyone that's on the patrol has been trained, so we're watching out for each other as well as the safety of the public. And we have a basic rule that patrol volunteers never get hurt. So our own safety and well-being is always top of mind. And through the 14 years that we've been in existence, we've never had a volunteer that has suffered an injury while on patrol. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we only ask for 1 3-hour shift per month so that we can make it easy for most people to fit it into even busy lives. Our approach primarily is a visible safety presence. Just our visibility in our bright orange uniforms by itself helps to displace crime or people that are intent on causing injuries. So without even having to engage with people, the visibility and just the fact that we're on patrol has a very good mitigating circumstance. We work on prevention. We do that with working with other groups. The Stop the Violence campaign is a campaign that we work with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. In this campaign, when you see the pink triangle in the window of a store, it means that that store has agreed to be a place of safe haven in case somebody is affected by crime, so they can wait there while waiting for the police or for medical emergency workers to respond. But the Stop the Violence program is a operation we do with the neighborhood merchants. We've handed out over 100,000 safety whistles, and those are free of charge, so we might put those into people's hands to help their own safety. And we also work with mitigating hazards, such as poor street lights, broken sidewalks, things that maybe involve trimming of vegetation for safety, so that we can prevent things from happening by just mitigating the problems as we find them. Our first approach to an issue is de-escalation. We carry flashlights and whistles, so we attract attention with the use of flashlights and the whistles. We first check to see if anybody in a situation appears to be violent or if somebody's injured, so that we can attend to that in the first moments. And then we find that conversation resolves most conflicts without having to bring in any type of authorities or other help. Once it's finished, we then ask if anyone wants to take legal action, which is always their legal right. If somebody wants to press charges, we will then bring in the authorities so that they can take care of the details as far as that is concerned. We also work with professionals who are standing ready to work with us. Our primary connection is with a group called Patrol Special Police. Patrol Special is a private enterprise. In this picture, that would be Cody. On the right is our Patrol Special Officer in the Castro, who can often come into a situation and be able to handle it without needing to call the police. However, in more serious conditions, we do bring in the police as necessary. That's especially when there's something that is particularly troubling or violent, or maybe where somebody wants to file paperwork in response to a particular incident. And we might find ourselves being asked to be witnesses if needed in proceedings later. So we call ourselves first observers rather than first responders, because our job primarily is to take note of things that need attention, but let the professionals do the work when it's necessary. A lot of our work involves medical emergencies, and so we act as the bridge between basic first aid and the paramedics or medics in an ambulance so that we can stabilize the situation and, if necessary, give time for the professionals to arrive. We carry extensive trauma kits, which are basic first aid kits with additional information or additional parts rather, such as Narcan for the possibility of an overdose. We have advanced CPR kits, which are not shown in this picture, but it's a separate kit that we carry. That means if we have to provide CPR in the time of COVID, we can do it safely without having to worry about becoming infected. And we also have advanced training in such things as stop the bleed, the Narcan training, and then also additional safety supplies that most first aid kits don't have for a little more serious types of conditions. We let the medics handle serious situations. So again, we are providing first aid, which means we can stabilize somebody who needs attention. And if they seem to be seriously injured, we always call in the medics who will be able to professionally respond. We have free training for our volunteers. Castro Patrol basically pays for things like basic first aid training, CPR, and AED, which is the automatic external defibrillator, advanced training in trauma care or outside certifications such as NERT or ALERT or other types of things that you might find beneficial in addition to the work you're doing. Now, we don't require that you be trained in first aid, but we encourage everybody to look at first aid training, not only for the times that you're on patrol, but also just in your day-to-day lives when you might run into a medical emergency with a friend or a family member or possibly a stranger that needs some attention. A lot of our work is working with special events that take place in and around the Castro. We mix some of our work with fun. So a lot of these events, in addition to us being able to be helpful, can also be fun in various ways for people that are helping out. A lot of the work that we do involves marches and rallies that take place in the Castro, such as the big events that took place during the Proposition 8 elections a few years ago, the work that's done more recently around the Black Lives Movement and also the Pulse events, as well as events that will either begin in the Castro and march to City Hall or vice versa, so that we can help the marchers and the folks that are observing their First Amendment rights to do so safely. We also work with various memorials and remembrances. The Pulse Massacre in Florida is celebrated every year, and we are usually part of the safety for that event. Every year for World AIDS Day, the local school in the Castro does a program where the kids from the school will write remembrances for people who have passed away from AIDS. And also every year when Harvey Milk celebration for the birthday takes place, we're part of keeping that safe by monitoring traffic and making sure that people are able to celebrate safely without having to worry about other safeties. So those are some of the things that gives you a chance to also be part of history, as well as being part of maintaining safety within the neighborhood. And we also every year have an event where we work with the folks from Dorothy, the workers group, to memorialize events that have taken place the previous years that need some calming and resolution. So that's just one more event that we do as part of marking history and helping the community to become more centered and safe. We also have some fun events as well. We sometimes walk in the Leather Walk. We participate every year as the main safety monitors for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence's Sisters in the Park program on Easter Sunday. We also participate every year in the PRC's Christmas dinner where they have a great meal for all of their clients. And also, of course, Santa Skivvies Run, where we help the folks running in the streets to be safe, while they then celebrate a joyous afternoon in the Castro. So there's a lot of fun events that we participate in as well. Most of what we do has to do with educating the public. We do self-defense workshops 2 or 3 times a year in which we train the public with basic things that they can do to de-escalate a situation that might be uncomfortable, or some very basic self-defense moves that they might be able to use to get out of a situation that requires more than just words. We also do awareness through literature in the form of various types of safety campaigns and literature that we put into the hands of the public so that the public can be more self-aware and be able to avoid issues that they might not have really been prepared for in the past. Networking is a huge thing that we found needed a lot of work a few years ago. So we work very closely with different groups and organizations. The model that we follow is this pyramid, and at the base of the pyramid is the public. The public is unprepared, which means that they are most likely to be a victim of a crime, and they are likely to complain about safety, but oftentimes are not really in a position to help. We try to move people into the next level, which we call the informed public, where people are more aware, and this is done through the literature and safety whistles that we've mentioned, and it talks about communications and less risk and more involvement, so people can be aware of their own safety and avoid situations that they might have stepped into otherwise. The next step up is the formally trained public, and that's exactly what Castro Patrol is, along with other types of groups like Neighborhood Watch, NERT, which is the group of volunteers that work with the fire department in the event of large events like earthquakes, ALERT, which is where civilians work with the police department in crowd maintenance and other types of events. And these groups are still civilians, but they've been formally trained in different ways so that things can be done correctly and safely. Above that, we find the trained security officers or professionals. These are people like the Patrol Special Police we mentioned, security or alarm companies, guard companies, and so on. The difference between this and either the police department or the trained public is that these people are paid to do this, so it's part of their everyday work, and they're normally trained with additional training, have special equipment, and then are scheduled so that we know that they're available at particular times or maybe on a call for service basis. And finally, at the top is the police departments. That would be the city police departments, the district attorney, the highway patrol, FBI, TSA. These are sworn, skilled, and publicly funded organizations. They're relatively small in number, and what we try to do is bring them in when we need to, but when we don't need to bring in the police, we try to do the best we can to negotiate issues. So Castro Patrol is part of the trained public, and one of the things that we've made as our primary mission is keeping the communications lines open across all of these different layers so that each group knows what's available or what types of problems that need to be worked on so that we can continue to improve the safety. The neighborhood groups that we work with are neighborhood associations such as the Eureka Valley Neighborhood Association, the DuBose Triangle Neighborhood Association, and the Castro Merchants, so that we can keep them up to date on different things involving safety and, when possible, work together with them in mitigating problems. Then we have the city alliances, which includes SF Safe. Safe is the group that creates and trains the neighborhood watch groups across the country, or across the city rather. They also do the Safe Bike program, which is the way that you can register the serial number on your bicycle in case it gets stolen. Castro Business Watch is a similar organization, except now this is a business to business rather than a neighbor to neighbor type of an approach, but it's the same idea of helping businesses work together so that they can identify issues and then take appropriate action. The San Francisco Chiefs LGBT Forum was started about 10 years ago, and that is a chance for representatives from the LGBT community to work directly with the command staff of the police department so that we can bring up issues or look at projects that we can do to improve safety. And the district attorney has a similar organization that meets a couple of times a year. And then finally, we are one of the 12 organizations that manages the Castro Cares program. Castro Cares is a program that provides different ways for people who are unhoused to be able to reach different types of services that they might not be aware of or might not have a good connection for involvement. So those are just some of the groups that we work with in our approach of a team approach across the community. Finally, our history, we've been thriving for over 14 years. A quick history is that we started in 2006 in response to some violent robberies that took place in the Castro that really got the neighborhood up in arms about this type of violent activity should not be happening in our neighborhood. It was launched originally with the help of the police department. Chief Heather Fong was the chief of police at that time. And so we have always had high respect and endorsement from city organizations. And our fiscal sponsor is SF Safe, who also manages the Neighborhood Watch program that we talked about earlier. So those are a very quick set of histories. We have a very diverse group of volunteers that are part of Castro Patrol. This is just a few of the folks that were part of an event that took place in January of this year. And we also, this year, we're very honored to be the recipient of the 2020 NEN, which is the NEN stands for Neighborhood Empowerment Network, which is a city organization. We received the award for Outstanding Neighborhood Watch Group. So we're very proud to be able to be honored in that respect. So that's a very quick overview of how Castro Patrol works. If you have any questions, please contact us at info@castropatrol.org. If you want to go to our website, it's castropatrol.org, or you can go to our Facebook page, which is where we do most of our communications these days, which is just search for Castro Patrol, and you can then follow us there. And please let us know if there's anything that we can do to answer questions or perhaps help your situation improve if you've run into things where you need some help.